Well, in my childhood, I had tried a number of outdoor activities. Of course, it's not like that I had enjoyed all of those outdoor activities, whether I was doing them for first time or continuously. However, today I'd like to talk about an outdoor activity which I had started to like from the very first time. The name of this activity is fishing, but to be honest, about 20 years ago, I did not really like the idea of sitting on the bank of a lake or river in an anticipation of some fish to be kind to take my bait. In fact, I used to think of this outdoor activity as some kind of hide and seek game, except it was much harder than that because I could see my prey only after catching it. However, all that changed when I was finally convinced by one of my cousins to accompany him in order to do some fishing practice with him. In fact, he even assured me that the fishes would eat my baits. So I agreed that and went to a nearby lake to catch some fish. By the way, before throwing my fishing wear into the water, my cousin did some tricks with attaching on the fishing rod. Anyway, I started to wait, but I was growing little impatient with the waiting as I could see no sign of the fish near my fishing rod. Suddenly, I saw that my float was moving and informed it to my cousin. My cousin immediately asked me to pull the rod out of the water, and I had caught my first fish. And when we finally left the lake, I had caught three fishes. Needless to say, I feel so happy later about the outdoor activity. Anyway, I would recommend this outdoor activity to my friends because the excitement of catching a fish is simply outstanding. Besides, this outdoor activity would also help learn how to become patient because it takes a lot of patience to catch a fish. After all, the fruit of patience is always sweet.
Well, if reading without a looking glass for a person with eye problem is incomplete and inefficient, searching for important information in today's world without using the internet has to be incomplete as well. And I also figured it out when I was searching for some important information about a couple of years ago. I never really like to travel during the winter time for two reasons. The first reason is, of course, I don't enjoy cold weather that much. The second reason is that the winter causes the visibility of roads to become low due to foggy weather, and I am never really comfortable riding on a vehicle when the road visibility is low because it increases the possibility of an accident. But I really needed to travel during the winter time about a couple of years ago because I wanted to see my younger sister who had just given birth to a beautiful baby girl. Anyway, I could either travel by train or by bus depending on how fast I wanted to reach my destination, as well as the visibility of the road due to the hazy weather condition. I tried to call both the bus authority and the train authority in order to get the necessary information, but while they were able to tell me exactly how long it would take me to reach my destination, they couldn't tell me anything specific about the winter fog. So I decided to hit the internet to find the information on winter fogs of those places through which my train or bus would pass. By checking the usual temperature and humidity levels of those areas, luckily I learned what I needed to know after searching for about 20 minutes. Well, after finding the needed information, I felt really happy and relieved as I was able to find it rather quickly. Comparing with other sources of information, I learned that the weather condition was not that bad for a day-long traveling. Besides, I also feel that I could rely on internet more often in order to find important information for the purposes of meeting our daily informational needs. I'm not really much into complaining unless I really, really have to. But then there are some situations when you have to complain because if you don't, nobody will. It's like complaining in the public interest, I suppose. Anyway, the last time I complained, it was about 3 years ago when I stayed at a hotel and I wasn't really happy with some of the services it provided. In particular, the issues were about unwashed bed sheets and irregular housekeeping. However, I formally complained about the issues to the general manager of the hotel as the issues were bad enough for me. But they were even worse for a couple of sick and elderly people. In fact, they were having breathing problem due to some damp smell and dust mites which must have been caused by not cleaning the rooms on a regular basis. On top of that, if you have to sleep on some unwashed bed sheets and blankets, becoming even sicker is the only logical conclusion. Anyway, after the complaint was made, the manager seemed to get really busy with his hotel crews and staffs. The manager even apologized to me, saying that he had been just too busy with some other priorities lately, and as a result, things had become a bit rusty at the hotel, much to the discomfort of its guests. However, in the end, the hygiene issues of the hotel was solved after my complaint, which of course was a good thing in the end. But what I just couldn't get out of my mind was that how possibly hotel manager could have some other priorities except ensuring the best services for his guests. In fact, I felt like the well-being of his hotel guest was the last thing on his mind. Besides, I also felt like I was simply being ripped off for the services I was provided by the hotel, which was way below the standards. However, the only good feeling I had in the end was that a problem was actually solved because of my initiatives. Trying to learn a new skill can be rewarding as well as frustrating depending on what kind of skill it is and what we want to use it for. While we can learn some of the skill easily within a short period of time, we can say the same for the others, which can take a considerably longer period of time to learn. I'm talking about how to learn using a computer at home, a skill that certainly can prove out to be useful in our daily life. I think that many of us know how we feel when we are asked to write a certain letter or application for our works or school on our computer, and we just don't know how to even launch the writing software. We also know how frustrated we get when we can't even do some simple math on an Excel sheet. But unfortunately, getting frustrated doesn't exactly solve our problems. Learning and mastering the skill does. Learning how to use a computer can be a time-consuming matter since it involves a lot of things, starting from how to find the right computer application on a desktop to typing on a computer keyboard to understanding the issues of a blue screen and internet connectivity problems. Besides, there are so many other things that can go wrong with a computer, which even an expert struggles to understand sometimes. Anyway, we can try to learn how to use a computer in the best way from our friends, family members who know about computer. But if you are not really that much into divulging your weakness to others, then it's better to buy a good book that explains things in easy terms for your understanding. However, sometimes neither a good book nor our friends or family members are enough, in spite of their best efforts and supports, to turn us into skilled computer user. Should that be the case, we may want to join a computer training center that specializes into teaching not only the computer basics but also more advanced stuff. It might take a while to learn a particular computer software, and becoming a skilled and advanced computer user takes years. I try to help out people without seeking any kind of appreciation or any other things in return. And it's of course our human nature to appreciate the help, even though not all of us show or display their appreciation explicitly. But today I'd like to talk about a time when someone explicitly appreciated me for my assistance. It happened about a few years ago, and my neighbor Ashik needed to leave the city for a few days in order to see his sick grandmother. To introduce Ashik, he could easily be considered as one of the nicest neighbors one could ever hope for, and he lived with his family a couple of blocks away from my house in the same neighborhood. Ashik used to own and run his own small super shop, which I used to visit almost every other day in order to buy different kinds of stuff. So we had a very warm relationship with each other. Thus, when he asked me to watch after his house for a few days, I just couldn't refuse. Ashik told me what exactly needed to be done, including picking up the newspapers from his front lawn every morning, helping his employees to open and close his super shop, and turning the lights on of his house during the evening. He also asked me to spend a couple of hours at his house every day, if possible, and keep the heater in his house turned on in order to keep his house warm. As you know, it was really cold at that time. Anyway, Ashik left the city after giving me the instruction, but when he came back after visiting his old and seriously ill grandmother, he didn't forget to thank me with a very big smile on his happy face. Even though I wasn't exactly looking for any kind of appreciation from my neighbor, I felt really great and useful after his word of appreciation. I also felt that a little token of appreciation for our good deeds from the people around us would take our relationship even further, a really long way.